Today on the Board Game Nights, we're going to show you how to host your own board game night.
So, you've got an interest in board games, you've watched our channel, you've seen a couple of board games you want to play. Now how do you find some people to play board games with?
Good question.
So what you can do is you can invite over some of your friends, and invite them over for a nice dinner for instance, and then afterwards you can bring out a nice light game that's different to the usual Monopoly or Risk that they're familiar with. And then you can show that the board game industry itself has changed significantly from what they remember.
Additionally, you can look for local board game groups in your area that meet regularly to play. For example, in Townsville we have the Townsville Board Gamers. They meet once a week. We're going to post the link in the description for this video so you can go see them.
Additionally, you can check out your friendly local game shop for more information about other events. For instance, here in Townsville we have Realms of Magic and Miniature. Their link is also in the description.
Now that you've got some friends who would like to play board games, how do you host your own board game night, Sam?
Well, first thing you got to think about is the number of players that you're inviting over.
Not too many, not too few.
Exactly. If you want to play one of those longer, bigger strategy games with about 4 or 5 people, having 20 people there means it's going to be quite noisy and quite difficult. Likewise, if you want to play those bigger, social, light-hearted, fun games, and you've only got 4 people, it might not work in that other respect. So you always have to think about the number of players. Me personally, I like to host about 10 to 12 different people. That way you can have 2 games running at the same time without too much difficulty, and you can also then bring everyone together to play a nice big social game to wrap up the night.
Indeed, keeps the flow of the night running nicely. And as such, you're trying to pick games which will suit the people you have there on the night.
Exactly. If you bring out one of those bigger, longer strategy games for people that aren't very familiar with board games, they might get a bit intimidated by it.
And likewise, playing the same game every week might get a bit dry.
So when you run a board game night, be sure to have a list of simple and straightforward rules for your players to follow so that your board games don't get damaged and so that everyone has a smooth and fun night.
Also, a good thing to mention is sportsmanship. Don't be a sore loser, and also don't be a bad winner.
Exactly. Follow Will Wheaton's universal rule, don't be a dick.
The next point to cover?
Refreshments.
It's always good to have some nice cold water on hand so everyone doesn't get dehydrated during a board game night.
Exactly. And as for food, you can either have food prepared for everyone, or you can tell everyone to go get food beforehand. That way that they won't be leaving in the middle of a game to go get dinner.
Or they won't get their messy food fingers all over your nice clean board games.
So, you've found some friends that are interested in board games, you've invited them over, you've fed and watered them, now you're going to need some board games.
We've also compiled a small list of games here that are easy to play, entry-level games, they're easy to come by, and most importantly, they won't get old anytime soon.
We've covered many of these games in our previous award-winning and popular games special, but one game that I want to briefly talk about is Love Letter. Now this is a nice, easy, light micro game that features 16 cards, and it's a great game to introduce people to card gaming and board gaming in general.
It's an icebreaker, you can even play it with the family.
Exactly.
When it comes to actually buying board games, we recommend that you go to your local board game shop, support them, and get your games from there.
Exactly, that will help build a local scene, which means that there'll be more people playing games in your area, which means you can play with more people, and it means that your shops will stock more and more games, which means you'll have a better selection.
This also is not always the case. Unfortunately, you might have to buy games from overseas, which can get a bit complicated.
Exactly, especially with some of the new releases, or if your local game shop has run out of some really hot titles.
And this can get very tricky.
Let's consider our recently reviewed game, Dominion. This game is very popular, so you should be able to find it at your local game shop.
Our local game shop here in Townsville sells Dominion for about $50. International viewers might think that this sounds a bit expensive, but board games in Australia are usually a bit more expensive than they are overseas.
Alternatively, the international stores have these games at much cheaper prices, but often have much more expensive shipping, meaning that the savings are not always as large as they might seem. There will also be significant delays in getting these games from overseas.
You might find that placing large international orders of many games will reduce these shipping costs, meaning that you can end up with more board games for your money. However, we've also had cases where boxes were damaged in transit.
Your best option is to always buy locally. This way you get the game immediately and you support your local businesses.
And how?
We hope you've enjoyed our special on hosting board game nights and how to purchase some board games.
Please leave a comment, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time here at the Board Game Nights.
And cut.
Jesus, Sam, I had no idea it was that expensive to buy board games.
Yeah, it's a pretty expensive hobby. Why, you got a cheaper one?
Crystal meth, maybe?
Ooh.